Okay, so this meeting is going to be a rundown of meetings 1 through 3 for the Nittany Data Labs cloud computing program in case anyone missed those first 3 meetings. So let's first get started with the first meeting. So our first meeting was about introducing cloud computing. So this program is one of 2 NDL programs besides general meetings. We have around 13 weeks of workshops focused on cloud computing, and we meet Sundays 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. in E203, which is the same meeting as the general meetings. And all majors are welcome. So this program is open for anyone who's interested in cloud computing, and it has applications to all types of majors. So some logistics about this program. The workshops will take place once a week, besides break and weeks before finals, of course. And most of the resources will be on Discord under our Cloud Lab, the Discord channel, text channel. And please bring your laptops because we're going to be doing lots of hands-on things. And the meetings will be recorded, and all of the rest of the resources will be in that text channel on Discord. So some of the goals of this program. Cloud computing is one of the most important tech skills that's not usually taught in classes. And it's really important for data scientists, software developers, and everyone in between. And it also opens doors to other career paths that the schools do not cover at all. So some of the goals of this program are to get hands-on experience using cloud, build some projects, and we'll also get the chance to take the Azure certification exam probably sometime around March or April. And these are just some companies that use Azure to build their infrastructure. As you can see, we got Penn State up here. We also got LinkedIn, Verizon, Adobe. So here's just a quick timeline of what we're going to go over. So week 1, we're going to go over the introduction. So that's this meeting. And week 2, we're going to go over some of the basics of cloud computing, virtual machines, compute. Week 3, we're going to go over databases, scaling, serverless. Week 4, we're going to go over file storage, Docker and Kubernetes. Week 5, we're going to go over queues, publish, subscribe, and some other databases. And then once we get to week 6, that's going to be near the semester end. So we're maybe going to do some review, maybe run some web applications. And then starting next semester, which is going to be week 7, we're going to go over some cloud computing tools for mobile development, Internet of Things, big data. And then week 8, we're going to get to business intelligence, analytics, and visualizations. Week 9, we're going to get to networks, security, IAM basics. Week 10, we're going to go over governance, DevOps, other tools. Week 11, we're going to go over monitoring your software, some of the artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities in Azure. And then week 12, we're going to go over management, SDKs, and architecting. And then by the time we get to week 13, we have enough knowledge that we can probably take the certification exam. And that's one of the main goals of this cloud computing program throughout the years. It's to get certifications for all of the students, so that will help them with, job applications. And yeah, let's first go over some of the basics of computing. So how does the web work? Let's say we have our desktop computer right here, and then let's say we also have a server here on the right. Now this desktop computer, let's say you're inside the Chrome browser or something, it'll make a request to that web server, and then that web server will return something back. So for example, your browser might make a request to web servers that would return HTML and JavaScript, and these would render into websites on your computer. So that's the basic of how the web works. It's just communication between different computers. And then imagine this, but on a huge scale of like millions and millions of computers. And that's what makes up the web. So a server typically has a CPU, which is like the brain of the computer, right? The server does all of its computational tasks using the CPUs. It has RAM, right? This is going to be accompanying the CPU. It also has storage, right? And of course, it also has networking and routing elements. These elements allow the server to communicate with other computers in other places. So let's introduce cloud computing now. So what is cloud computing? So first we have to take a look at before cloud computing existed. So before cloud computing existed, tech companies had to manage their own servers. So can you think of any problems this might pose? As the web traffic as the traffic on that server grows, right? The company is going to need to buy more and more servers to meet the demand. And that means the company has to invest in more IT personnel, more cooling systems, more space, obviously, right? More actual physical space for the servers, electrical systems to keep the servers running, all of these hardware related infrastructure that's not even related to the software at all, right? So, as this traffic grows, right, companies, they have to face huge costs just to keep their demands met, right? So that wastes money, okay? And now we have cloud computing, right? So around 20 years ago, right, cloud computing was, it started becoming more mainstream. So with cloud computing, companies can get the hardware and software resources that they need without any physical provisioning. So that means you can access a whole suite of tools and research and services for research and application development without having the actual hardware, in your own data center or your own house, right? So basically, the physical side of things is maintained by the cloud provider, and then you do not have to worry about those physical side of things. You just have to ask them to rent some of the hardware for use, and then you can do whatever computational tasks you want. So cloud computing works on a pay-as-you-go model. So we have a pretty cool like animation right here, right? So let's say this person on the left wants to use cloud computing. And then on the right here, we have Google Cloud Platform, which is the third most, it's the third most used cloud provider. So let's say this person asks, okay, I need 5 Ubuntu servers with this amount of RAM and this amount of CPU. And then Google Cloud says, okay, here, it's going to cost you $6 per month to use, and you can unreserve them anytime. So that person has access to those 5 Ubuntu servers now, and that person does not have to worry about the physical side of things, right? They just access the virtual machines, and then they can use it for whatever tasks they want. So what this means is you can have access to any amount of resources at any time for whatever use case. So this is a really great graph that I always show to everyone, right? This shows the difference between your responsibilities and the cloud provider's responsibilities. Who manages what? So traditionally, right, if you were a company that wanted to release software to the world to see, you had to manage all of this hardware stuff, right? So all of the servers, the storage, the networking, the virtualization, operating systems. And then on top of that, you can finally, install your applications and the data layer and all of that type of stuff. But with cloud computing, which is the two in the middle, right? We have, so IaaS stands for infrastructure as a service. PaaS stands for platform as a service. So as you can see, infrastructure as a service is a little bit more lower level. They give you a little bit more control. So a platform as a service, the provider would manage everything from runtime all the way down to networking. And all you have to worry about is the application itself. And then since infrastructure as a service gives you a little bit more control, you install the applications and data, and you also have control over some of the runtime and middleware elements. So let's take a look at some examples for these, right? So for software as a service, which is SaaS, that's like the actual software that you might use. So think like Netflix, Dropbox. So we're not going to be worrying about this side of things, but we're going to be taking mainly a look at infrastructure as a service. So there's 3 main providers, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platform and Microsoft Azure, and we're going to be learning Microsoft Azure. And then, of course, there's also platform as a service. If you've ever used Netlify, Heroku, GitHub Pages, it's basically like a really easy way to spin up your website. So who uses cloud computing tools? So it's for all technologists, really. If you're a developer, you can launch applications using it. If you're a data scientist or a data engineer, you could process your data. You can use data warehouses, you can use data streaming tools to clean the data, since especially these days, right? There's a lot of data moving around, in companies. You might be dealing with terabytes, petabytes data, right? You cannot store all of that data on your computer, right? So you have to take advantage of cloud computing tools that can help you move these things around and process them. And then, of course, for solutions architects, they take advantage of cloud computing to build infrastructure for their company and get things done. So, members will have a general idea of all of these tools that exists in cloud computing and how they apply to different areas. Okay, let's get started. So getting set up for this meeting, at least, we're mainly going to just get signed up with Microsoft Azure. So if you go to Microsoft Azure and you sign up with their Azure for Students account, you're going to be able to get $100 of free Azure credits. And that's what we're going to be using to mess around and play around. And of course, another requirement is you have to have a little bit of computer storage on your laptop, because we're going to be downloading a few things. We're going to be using the command line. And another thing that's not mentioned here is I would really recommend getting VS Code, which is a text editor. That's going to help us a lot, because I'm also going to be using VS Code to walk through a few things. And that way, you might not get lost, right? So yeah, so our GitHub repository is going to have all of the templates that we're going to use in the meetings. And also feel free to chat and discuss with other members who have the same interests, right? The entire point is we're all still learning, right? We can figure out, what cool things to build, maybe participate in a hackathon. And these meetings will be recorded, but I still recommend everyone to I still encourage everyone to explore more on their own, right? This just 1 hour of learning cloud computing a week might not be enough, especially if you want to get deeper into infrastructure and stuff. This stuff is going to be really useful. So I would really recommend exploring more use cases on your own. But just don't use up the 100 credits too quickly, because we're going to be using those for 13 weeks. So about the certification. So, towards the end, we'll have a chance to take the AZ900 certification, which is Microsoft Azure's fundamentals certification. So pretty much we'll have enough knowledge by the end of March to take this certification, and I hope everyone passes it. But don't worry, NDL is going to fund this certification for you, so you do not have to pay for any of it. And yeah, this just shows like recruiters that you have a basic knowledge of cloud computing, right? And you can, use some of the basic tools and get it's going to be really helpful. So don't worry about this. This meeting is being recorded. So yeah, this is, do not worry about this. Yeah, so that's going to be the end of the first meeting. I'm also going to have another video for our second and third meeting.